she was like, I know you're meant for a higher power. And
Are you kidding me?
I'm not kidding you.
A pimp said this to you.
A pimp said this to me.
All right, so welcome everybody. This is my first guest episode recording, and I'm so excited. We are here with Pearl Noir. So Pearl Noir is the Black burlesque queen known as Mama Pearl in the burlesque community. She's been blessed with the unique gift of embodying Josephine Baker and healing an audience in a theater or in a classroom. A paragon of glitz and glamour, Pearl is an intuitive healer, creative director, transformative coach, and the creator of the Healing Through Seduction program. She specializes in guided sensual touch, empowerment workshops, and burlesque-inspired healing rituals. As a visionary, she is also an advocate for people searching for a community to reclaim their bodies and reclaim control over their sensuality. So welcome, Pearl. I'm so excited to have you.
I'm so excited to be here. I'm really, really excited to
be. So for anyone listening, Pearl and I met each other online through a publicity program that we're in. And I was just like, here's another sex positive person. Like, let me reach out. And we had a really nice conversation. And I just feel like, we're trying to do similar work in the world with people. And I'm just really glad that we get to connect and learn more about you. Yeah, I get your message out there a little bit. So, okay, so we're starting to get into the origin story of Pearl Noir. So I would actually love to hear more about that. So how was Pearl Noir born?
So Pearl Noir was born in New Orleans in 2003. Mm-hmm. Before that, around 2001, I moved to New Orleans from Las Vegas. I moved to Vegas when I was 19. And the quick backstory is, I was the little girl from the ghetto who just knew that I had a bigger destiny than mm-hmm. becoming a crackhead. Or, you know what I mean? Like, that's who was around. Those were to my birthday.
I'm glad you knew that, like, inside.
I was like, I love Lulu. I love Annie Pearl. I love Michelle. I love my mom's friends, but I don't think I'm supposed to be doing that,
Okay.
I was like, I don't think I'm doing that. So I said, I just knew I had this talent, and I knew that I was supposed to go about and heal the world through dance, even though I taught myself how to dance because there was no dance classes. So I taught myself how to dance by watching ballroom competitions, so cool. And so I said, as soon as I graduate, I am getting out of here. And I literally left after graduation, after the ceremony. I moved to an hotel. And I call it an hotel because the M was missing.
Oh, God.
From the sign.
Yeah.
And it had, and I'm going to age myself here, and I'm fine with it. It had
Smurf. I think we're close in age.
Smurf blue wet carpet. Smurf, everyone. The Smurfs. Do you remember them?
This is like very vivid imagery.
Smurf blue wet carpet. It was wet. Lord, I don't know why it was wet.
God, that's a little, ooh.
I was not where I was supposed to be. Let me just tell you that. When you try to be independent too fast and it goes
wrong. It was just a stepping stone.
I was like, okay, and I'm just going to tell you the full origin story now because
Go for it. We're in it.
So I, called my friend D. Mm-hmm. Let's call her D. Mm-hmm. And, I was like, girl, I'm at the hotel. And she was like, girl, this sounds terrible. Come live with me and my girlfriend. And I was like, oh, okay, this is amazing. So Heather, I'm there. We're having the best weekend of my 19-year-old life. And then Monday comes, and this is where we're about to drop the bomb on everyone.
Okay.
I won't go too deep in it, but I'll just quickly say I found myself tricked into prostitution.
Oh, fuck.
And I worked for the pimp and the family for like a weekend, plotting my escape. Because
immediately plotting the escape. Okay.
I am not, if I escaped being a crackhead, I definitely need to figure out. This. Nothing wrong with sex work, but it's different when you choose it for yourself, right?
100%. Yes.
I still consider myself a sex worker with the work I do now.
Right.
So I said, I got to get out of here. I spoke to the moon. I was speaking to my ancestors. I was like, please help me figure out how to get out of here. And I'm so anointed that the pimp let me go.
Wow.
She was like, I know you're meant for a higher power in
Are you
coaching.
kidding me?
I'm not kidding you.
A pimp said this to you.
A pimp said this to me. And this is the second time that I've ever spoken about it. Like, it's my ancestors are like, this is a story that you need to tell now. And so after the pimp dropped me off, I said, okay, how are we getting out of here? So I saved a couple of $100, got my backpack, got on a Greyhound bus, and said, I'm going to be a showgirl in Vegas with no training and no legs. I'm like 5'2".
But you like have that energy. So I can totally see this for you.
I was like, I'm going to be a showgirl. Moved to Vegas, didn't get any gigs as a showgirl because I wasn't tall enough.
Okay.
And I didn't have the training, but I did find myself at the Excalibur. And I was like, oh, I'm working at a castle. Bless my heart.
I've been there. Yeah.
It's no castle. But my little 9-year-old self was like, I've made it. I've arrived. And I was a background dancer and singer.
Can you just say how amazing that is for you to get like any kind of professional background singer dancing gig with no training? Like you do just have this like calling.
I'm just going for it. I'm just going for it.
It's amazing.
And so then September 11th happened. And I said, okay, girl, where are you going now? New Orleans. Great. Let's go there for whatever reason.
Yeah.
I ended up, the reason was I ended up connecting with an ex. And so that's why I went.
Okay.
And when I was there, I was like, okay, where are we going to work? So I found myself dancing for Genie Hat Productions, doing an all-Black burlesque musical.
Ooh.
And while doing that burlesque musical, that's how I found out more about Josephine Baker. And I could have sworn I felt her say, you are the reincarnation of me, and you are meant to honor my legacy for the rest of your days. And so I said, okay, I'm going to do it. So I auditioned for another burlesque show after this musical run was over. And I went in, with my hair slicked. I said, I'm going to be Josephine Baker in this show. And I walked in and there was this beautiful, statuesque Black woman that was like 8 feet tall. And I said, that's the choreographer. That's the one I have to impress. And I was the only Black woman there, all white, and I said, okay. So I'm sauntering, and I just so happened to fall into a middle split. I just
like accidentally.
How did I get here? And
it just happened to you, really.
Just got there. And so she was like, that's the one. So they hired me for the show. And when I went into the first rehearsal, I mentally and spiritually told her, I'm Josephine Baker. My name is Pearl Noir. That's what they used to call Josephine Baker, and that's what you're going to call me. And she said, let's have her do Josephine Baker, and let's call her Pearl Noir. And I went, excellent. So that is the origin story.
Without you verbalizing that? Oh my God. You guys, this is crazy. Okay. So I feel like we're getting to some very like amazing magical energy. Okay. So now you're in this amazing show in New Orleans. Pearl Noir is born. And you've got like quite an audience now.
Yeah.
I feel like you've got like a lot of people that you mentor. So like, how do you go from like just starting out to where you're at now? Because it's pretty cool. And like, I follow you on Instagram and I watch all your videos, and it just seems like you're really, I don't know, you're really bringing something to people that does empower them. So yeah, how did you get there?
Because I knew that I couldn't disrespect my ancestors by being humble. And so how you get there is understanding the true definition of being humble. So when you look it up, it means to have low importance of yourself, right? And I just wasn't going to dishonor myself. Now, I want to focus on being kind. I want to focus on being grounded in gratitude.
Yeah.
I want to focus on building the table and then showing others how to build the table.
Yeah.
I think I have low importance. That is how we all get in trouble in our professional and personal lives. So
100%.
when I went in, I was like, I'm going to audition for whatever. And any opportunity that comes to me, I'm going to take it. And of course, a lot of people didn't like that. They wanted me to pay my so-called dues. And I was like, I've survived a pimp. I've been homeless several times. I had a rough childhood. Those are my dues.
Right. And what if we just let go of this concept of having to pay dues? And what if we just decide that we're worthy?
Exactly. And so I decided that I was worthy. And the year after, like doing this show and winning a competition at the Burlesque Hall of Fame,
Mm-hmm.
Gina Monteith, who's one of the most
Oh yeah, like
burlesque artists
iconic,
in
super
this
well known.
age, she went on Twitter and said, I think I'm going to start doing a show and I'm going to come to New Orleans. Who do you think I should hire? And when we met, she said 90% of her fans said, you got to hire Pearl Noir.
What?
So Dita Von Teese brought me on and, you know, kind of had me do like an audition show. And I got a standing ovation.
Amazing.
And toured with her for about 10 years.
10 years? Oh my God.
She's still someone that I contact whenever I'm starting something and still use her for support. And so, of course, because of her reach, that's how I got that fast track into it. But if I played small, or if I decided I need to be humble and let the trauma dictate
right.
my opportunities,
yep,
then I would have said no. Or if I would have listened to people who had been doing burlesque longer than I, felt like it was their opportunity. And I politely said, but if it was your opportunity, she would have contacted you.
This is factual.
I feel as though I have the email confirming that it is, in fact, my opportunity.
Right.
It's mine.
You're bringing up so many good points that I kind of want to like drive home for people, because I do think Marianne Williamson has that little thing too about like, it's not our darkness that we're afraid of, but like our light, and like really stepping into our power. Right. And it is so true. And, so if you're listening to this, I just want you to realize, like, go for it. Like, nothing terrible is going to happen. You might feel sad. You might feel disappointed. But even like one of the things I've learned in my business journey is the same thing you're talking about. Like, just fucking go for it. Like, and then so what I used to do was like go for something and then be like, oh my God, it didn't work. I have to go back in my turtle shell. And now I have to like make myself feel better. And then it would be like a year later, I'd be like, okay, I can try one more thing. And now it's just like, go.
Go.
Right?
Too, for people like us and your listeners, what we have to remember is that there may be one person depending on us to live in our truth. And that one person is then going to inspire millions.
I know.
But the one has to be inspired first because of us.
And the way you framed it about like honoring your ancestors, I think is so beautiful, because it's like, who are we to stand in our own way of helping other people? Right? Or of honoring people who, had to go through some like really shitty stuff, or people who were so resilient that they did get through it. And then we were born because of that, Yes. So it's like to honor the history and the future. I think is really important. So like, I've done a little bit of business coaching with people too. And I'm just like, get out of your own way. Like, you need to go help people.
Yes. It's your obligation to just be the light. And in remembering too, I know that darkness and evil has a great press agent. That person is working, baby.
Like the news.
Everything is going in that person's favor. That energy is favor. But light, actually have more light in the world.
Yeah.
But we can't have access to it unless you step up and show that light.
Yeah. Like, you have to be brave. You have to be vulnerable. And I think, I talk a lot about building that inner security. Yeah. I'm actually curious, like, where did you get this inner security? Did you always have it?
I mean, I was the child. When I was around 11, my mother caught me sneaking back into the house late night and yelled my window shut and told everyone in my family, like, she was sneaking out to see boys. And no one asked me what I was actually doing. And I was sneaking out to talk to the moon.
Literally the cutest. Like, I love your 11-year-old self. Wow.
Yes, we're talking. I mean, and the 43-year-old me knows, like, yeah, maybe, I don't know if you should have been doing that. Like, sneaking out of the house late night talking to the moon. But that's what I was doing. I think for me, I just was born deeply connected to whatever ancestral power and mission. Like, I knew very young that I even picked my mother.
Wow.
That I was like, oh no, I chose her though. Even though she, she's a beautiful person. She's a great aunt. right? But
Mm-hmm.
I have to disconnect from her in order to do my work.
Mm-hmm.
I knew very early on that I was like, I chose her though.
It's that's tough. That's like an advanced level of healing. But I do want people to know that like that's possible. Like you can disconnect with love, you can be grateful, you can realize that difficult experiences or relationships shaped you. And I'm trying to remember what the phrase is, but it's kind of like our gifts come from our trauma in some ways, and in realizing that.
Yeah, yeah. I in order to do this work that I do, I have to wake up and make a conscious decision to be a motherless daughter
Hmm.
in order to do my work.
Yeah. Let's
Mhm.
talk more about your work too. I want to hear more about that. Like the healing through seduction is such a great title,
Thank
and so I
you.
just want to understand what does that mean? Like what types of healing do people come to you for, and like how do you help them?
So a lot of women and femmes come to me when they want to reconnect to their body, like if they've lost weight or they've gained
Hmm.
weight, or if they are, having that moment where they are comfortable in their 5-story home, but
Mhm.
they're feeling lost because they know that they left their artistic dreams behind,
Mm.
or they're a mother of three and they're taking their children to dance class, but they're not going to dance class anymore. So they
Mhm.
come to me when they know that they've abandoned their creativity, right? Because
Okay.
I use that burlesque element as a healing modality. I use the movement as a healing modality. And then also women who feel like they want to redefine intimacy,
Mm.
see that they know they used to have this sensuality and somehow that sensual woman has been silenced. Not, it's always easy to blame society, but we have to be
Mhm.
more accountable.
Yeah.
Society doesn't come in our house.
You
You
might try to, but
know what I
don't
mean?
let it
Like,
in.
have to also own that even if it was society, we have become complicit with what society tried to teach us. And we have a choice if we want to deconstruct what we've
Yeah.
taught. So what I also specialize in as well is usually they're coming to me after trauma. If they're a femme,
Okay.
non-binary person, they're coming to me. I get a lot of people who have understood and realized that they're a woman and
Mhm.
come to me to have a place to tap into that
I
feminine.
love that.
And what I teach and why I use seduction is because a lot of us, when we fall in love with people, we fall in love with their trauma first, yet we
Mm.
don't give ourselves that same grace when we think about our own trauma or our
Mhm.
shortcomings or memories from the past. We look at this person, they're pouring their heart out to us about things they've been through, and we're like, oh, I just love this person and I'm gonna be the person to lift them up and show them that that doesn't matter. Okay,
Mhm.
so seduce yourself in that. So be seduced by your own trauma then. When you are thinking
Yeah.
about nurturing yourself or self-care, I think people are like, oh, self-love, I'm rolling my eyes at it because I don't want to fake affirmations. I don't
Right.
want to do bubble baths. And I'm like, well, first of all, let's dive deep into why you think speaking to yourself kindly is fake. So that
Yeah.
would be an indicator that you are not seducing yourself enough. And so I have a solution for you. Okay, you don't want to do the fake affirmations, then think about saying romantic poetry to yourself.
Oh,
You know, you don't want to say the affirmations, then let's dance them out, right?
that's a fascinating concept.
So all of my choreography when I used to perform burlesque, they were moving affirmations. I never did it as a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I did it as
Hmm.
a, I love my beautiful brown skin. I belong here for
Mm.
my ancestors. Right. So I was seducing my own self, healing myself from like internalized racism, using burlesque as a space to finally have full autonomy over my body, what I
Mm.
show, how I show it, where I show it, and being seduced by my own boundaries and the gift of self consent and just standing in my own power. So when I say healing through seduction, what I'm really saying is here's an opportunity to heal yourself the way you heal other people with kindness and grace. And here's an opportunity to use things like self-guided sensual touch to work
Mm-hmm.
on your boundary setting with yourself first. So that way it's easier to set boundaries with other people. What I'm saying is here's an opportunity to connect to yourself a bit deeper. Let's do some body mapping. Let's figure out if you can touch your collarbone and feel a sensation in your clitoris. Let's
Mm-hmm.
redefine intimacy so that you understand that you are worth this intimate way of life where you don't have the pressure of giving
Yeah.
or receiving an orgasm anytime you want to connect. You may not actually want to have sex,
Mm-hmm.
want to have some intimacy, but you have to heal the part of you that has decided that seduction is something evil. Seduction means you're being tricked, and seduction only happens with someone else. I hope I
Yeah.
answered that.
Oh, you did a great job answering that. I mean, I think that's like really what you're describing is a gorgeous thing, you know? And I think it's something that most of us don't even think about. Like, I don't even think that enters our brain waves most of the time. So I'm just like excited that now it will enter the listeners' brain waves.
Yes,
Like a
listener.
seed's been planted. Yeah, like it's in there now, you guys. You already heard it. So it's in there, it's floating around, it's going to work. Who knows what's going to happen now?
It's going to grow. That's what it's going to do.
It's going to grow. I want to hear stories of like how y'all are seducing yourselves.
Yeah. It's a beautiful thing to think about. And, one of the ways that I tell people to start it is to understand, one, that you have to give yourself grace, that you're in the infancy stage of thinking about healing through seduction. And think about the fact that we don't judge babies for eating with their hands.
Mm-mm.
We don't judge babies for crawling, yet we are obsessed with judging ourselves every time it's time for us to evolve. So every time there's a new transition, everyone, you have to start over. You're an infant again, and I want us to revel in that because it's a luxury to evolve.
Yeah, it's fascinating that you're talking about this because I have a recorded episode that will be released on Monday that is saying some of the same things with different words. So I talked about like animals and how they're so comfortable and there's no self-consciousness and, the Buddhist concept of like beginner's mind and just like wipe this slate clean of all this like negative stuff that we've been taught. And so, yeah, I feel like we're really on the same page now. Yeah, but it's exciting, I think, just to think about what's possible. And like hearing you talk about the self-seduction, I really like the idea of it not just being words. I think one of the limitations of talk therapy, which is, my background, is that we can be in our heads, and I think even with just doing an affirmation, it's kind of like it's like if it doesn't seep into your body, it's hard to fully know it and it's hard to like fully make the changes you're trying to make. So I love that idea of like bringing it into the body.
Yeah, it's so important. And, I started my journey thinking about the physical body and like how I also don't judge my physical body for wanting food, AKA nourishment, AKA seduction. Seduction is nourishment. When we're seduced by other people, it's because we feel comfortable of how they see us. They're nurturing us in some way. And so our bodies, we know that it needs to eat several times a day. We need to give it food. We need to give it water. But we don't go, damn it, body, like, you're hungry again. We go,
I think some of us do.
I mean, but, the concept of we know we're going to die, though, if we don't continue.
Right.
And it's like, and we also love nurturing our body with food. We love to eat. We love drinking.
Yeah, there's pleasure there.
White wine. So it's like, right. So learn how to have pleasure in healing. Your mental, like the emotional, the spiritual, the sensual. You have to learn how to find that pleasure in that as well. And understanding if the body needs to be nurtured several times a day, what in the world makes you think taking yourself on one date or doing a bubble bath every 5 years is enough? It's not going to work. So, one easy way to start this, and I did it, is anytime I was hungry or thirsty, that's when I romanced myself.
Oh, fascinating.
So I do it and I still do. So I do it all together.
So can I ask, like, what are some of your practices that you do on a regular basis to seduce yourself?
Yes. So one thing I do is I tell my inner child that I love her all throughout the day because I know that that is the one who's afraid.
Yeah.
That's the one who needs the nourishment. That's the one who's abandoned. And so I'm just like throughout the day, love you, proud of you, really giving myself pep talks. I do a lot of slow movement as well.
Mm.
Just like really taking my time walking around in
Mhm.
the house. I also like to give myself like an extra hour or two to just lay in the bed, explore my body before I get to work because I think that's
Love
the
that.
disconnect too for a lot of people. If they have to
Yep.
be somewhere at 10 a.m., they may get up at 9 or 8, and it's like
Mhm.
straight to work. And
Yep.
while you're disconnected,
Yep.
you start and end your day nurturing and seducing other people.
I mean, you guys, this is so important. Like, I want people to understand that this is like, this stuff will change your life, you
Instantly,
know?
actually, if you let it, it'll change your life
Yeah.
instantly. But we're more addicted to pain than pleasure, and that's why we may watch news for 10 hours straight telling
Yeah.
us the same terrible story over
Yeah,
and
please stop watching the news, everyone.
you know but we'll tell ourselves, oh, I don't have time to take that dance class that's only an hour. I don't
Right.
have time to work with Heather Shannon. Just I don't have the time. It's like,
Right.
so that's the other thing that I do to
Mhm.
seduce myself is I'm very mindful of what kind of energy that I consume.
Mhm.
And I do, take my time activating like my groin area, acknowledging my hips a lot, understand
Mm.
that there's the source of life between my thighs. So a lot of times too, I'll do like pelvic rocking exercises,
Mhm.
engage that sensual energy, not with the intent of having an orgasm,
Mhm.
but as a reminder of, as a woman, the reason why that feminine energy is always condemned is because it's so powerful. So I seduce myself by retraining my mind because when I was young, I already
So
had
good.
a D cup at like 11. And so I was already taught that I needed to cover, and I needed
Yes.
to do all these things to protect the men around me. And so
Yeah.
I seduce myself by reframing
Mhm.
all these thoughts that weren't true. I just really offer myself a lot of grace. I also seduce myself by allowing myself to honor every emotion, right? So when we are
Oh,
seduced by other people, what do people say when they're falling in love? I just feel like I can be myself.
yeah.
So I let myself be myself in front of myself. I cry for
Yeah.
everything. I cry when I masturbate. I cry for the orgasms.
I cry all the time too.
Mhm. And
I
I
think it's
also
great.
manifest during when I'm masturbating too. So I'll write down the things that I want to bring into my life, and really think about having an orgasmic life. So that's how I seduce myself on a regular basis.
I love that. And you mentioned a bunch more things there that I think are important for people to realize, like that idea that as women we need to like not be too sexual or not be too in our sexual energy or not dress a certain way so that, you know, people with a bunch of testosterone can manage themselves. You know.
Yes,
And it's actually kind of codependent behavior. It's like it's not our job to manage someone else.
thank
So
you.
I just want everyone to realize that because I don't think we even know.
Mm,
Some of this stuff is so internalized, and I'm sure for me as well, right? It's like we're all on this journey,
yeah.
but some of these like negative, sexual messages is so internalized that we don't even realize it's an issue. And
Yes.
so, yeah, it's like as people are listening to you, I'm sure some of them are being like, "Oh, I
Yeah,
do that too."
because we always think about like, oh, in society and the patriarchy did this, and it's like, yes, but what you have to realize and accept too to truly heal some of these things is a lot of the things that are hindering us and stopping us come from our family dynamics
Mhm.
or teachers at school,
Mhm.
and then you have to really think about what did I learn growing up that is not allowing me to be who I want to be in society, to be who I want to
Mhm.
be in my own home. Because like I
Mm-hmm.
said, yes, there's all these things, that are a factor
Mm-hmm.
why we're afraid to seduce ourselves, why we're
Yeah.
be kind to ourselves, why we are seeking emotional surrogates every day of the week. And it's because, even if we had a healthy childhood with parents who were very supportive, you know, we are still taught that we have to have a good job to survive.
Mm-hmm.
We're still, taught, and you want to get married, you want to have
Yeah.
children. There's somewhere down the line where we were taught that in order to matter, though, in order to be successful, you got to seduce the people reading that application to get into the university. You
Yes.
have to seduce the person who's interviewing you for the job.
Yeah.
You have to seduce someone into saying, I do.
Yes. I mean, and then I think we get into abandoning ourselves because we're so busy seducing everyone else.
Yes.
And so thus, seduce yourself.
Yes. Yes. And again, the seduction, because people hear the healing and then they hear seduction in my business title and they are afraid.
Yeah.
And it's like, we want to also redefine what healing means to us. Healing does not have to be an indicator or indication that something is wrong. It just means our spiritual, mental, emotional, seductive self, it's hungry. There's an
Mm.
owl and it's time to feed it. And if you're
Yeah.
living right, you should be healing all the time.
Mm-hmm. And I love what you're saying too about like healing doesn't have to be painful because I think especially as a therapist,
Mhm.
sometimes people are like, I don't want to go feel all my feelings. It's gonna hurt, And so I do try to bring some like laughter and like lightness and like also there's rewards that come with this work too.
Yes,
It's not
yes,
all pain. Yes, you're gonna probably have to feel some painful emotions at some
yeah.
point. Like I don't really think there's a healing path that completely circumvents that, but like it's not the whole path. It's not the only thing that's happening here. And there's like so many rewards that like when we're not running away from our emotions, that's freedom.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And we just have to be patient and kind because we were taught to, most of us, you're young. Oh, don't cry.
Right.
You give someone a gift and they start crying. People usually say, oh, no, don't cry. Instead of
Right.
saying that is the best reaction they can have.
Mm-hmm.
Or part of the pain, in my opinion, as someone who has a therapist as well,
Yep.
and a whole team to make sure I'm able to do my work.
Mm-hmm.
It's painful because we've just been taught, as you just said, that it's painful.
100%.
Every emotion, we think the only emotion that we are comfortable honoring is a moan through an orgasm or anger.
Right. Or if someone dies, you can be sad, but only for 3 days.
Oh, if you're lucky.
Yeah.
If you're
Like it's absurd. Like the way we relate to our emotions as a society is absurd. And I think just if we can even realize that, and I know it's like that's my freaking job, right? In a lot of levels is helping people with like, emotional and psychological things. And I'm still working on it. I'm still catching myself being like hard on myself when I have a certain emotion or holding myself to kind of a perfectionistic standard. And so I think that's like all it is like just having those moments of realization of like, oh, I see this pattern. And instead of being like, oh, why do I still have this pattern? To just be like, okay, like, can I be compassionate with myself with this pattern? And can I be grateful that I realized this pattern? So like now I'm more empowered to work with it.
And, I'd love to offer this too to anyone who may take this in. The thing is, who says we're not supposed to have any of those thoughts? Our bodies tell us, hey, it's time to go release some toxins.
Mm-hmm.
And we just go to the bathroom and release them.
Yep.
We don't say, damn it, like what you doing having some toxic energy again? We just understand that it's the natural flow.
Mm-hmm.
So the toxic thought or the toxic memory or you not being kind to yourself is not an indication that you haven't healed from whatever is coming. It's not an indication that you're not on the right path. It's just time to release the toxins.
Right. Like you're just a human and the emotions, it's emotions could be considered a sixth sense, but it's like, I think of them as like little messengers that we can either like banish them and not hear any of the messages.
Yes.
Or we can like honor them, acknowledge them, listen to the messages, and then they pass a lot faster.
They do. I welcome them. I welcome every emotion. I dance with my doubt. I dance with
So
my fear.
amazing.
I honor the imposter syndrome, and
So amazing.
understanding that that makes me more qualified, not less qualified, to do
100%.
my job.
Absolutely. You know, and sometimes I think as a therapist, people think like, oh, you just like have it all together. You figure out like, no, but also that's not the goal.
That's not
You know, like,
that's not the that is not the goal.
yeah, let's just like reframe entirely.
Yes.
What would you say to somebody who is just not feeling very sexy? You know, maybe like you said, they've gained weight, they've lost weight, their body's different after having a baby, you know, their hormones feel out of whack, whatever's going on. Like, what would you do with that person?
So this comes up a lot.
I
And
would
I
think
even
so.
have my own body as an example. So at the start of the pandemic is when I decided to kind of have that strong boundary with my mom. You know, it's like, hey, we can connect once you're ready to do X, Y, and Z. And ended up gaining about 60 to 80 pounds because I had the luxury to gain weight. So it was a
Ooh.
luxury to be able to nurture my body through food at the time, you know, having my Southern food. You know, I disconnected from my mother. Other people in my
Mm-hmm.
family did not agree with that, even though they know how hard it is for me. You know, they take her side. And
Okay.
so I would comfort myself with the Southern food, you know,
Mm-hmm.
giving myself that Southern comfort from my family, even though they couldn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, and now my body is saying, okay, now I want to be nurtured through movement. And
Mm.
so the weight will eventually go off, but
Mm-hmm.
I won't be doing like the comparison of look at the weight that I've lost because this 200-pound Pearl and the 130-pound Pearl are both powerful. And
Yeah.
sexiness is the embodiment of you living your truth. And what
Mm.
I teach is how to get away from being performative. There's no way to be sexy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just however you're feeling. So if you've gained that weight, you can honor that you don't like it. You can have a positive relationship with your body while also wanting to change it. So
Yep.
sometimes, in my opinion, body positivity has the right to be negative. So you can
Interesting. Yeah.
sexy by not judging that you don't like what you see and being okay
Yeah.
with that, but
Yeah.
then telling yourself the truth. Think about any artist or anyone who's inspired you or anyone that you loved. Go back when you saw them and they gained weight. Think about your own thoughts. Chances are high you had no thoughts. Chances
Mm-hmm.
are high you loved them just the same,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so then it goes back to let's practice, and understanding is a practice to offer to ourselves what we offer to others. And then when another thing, when women come to me and they're like, I just don't feel sexy, I say, this is where the boundaries and the self-consent comes in. So you do not have to
Oh.
put it on for yourself. This is maybe your season as a tree when it's still and there are no leaves to dance in the wind. But that tree is still a tree. And that tree still honors itself and its roots, knowing that there will be a time when the leaves will come back and they will dance with the wind.
My God, that's so beautiful and poetic. It's like you just did poetry. I love that though. And it goes back to the emotional piece of just allowing, you know, and I totally relate too. You know, I gained some weight when I moved here and probably just the transition and not knowing people and the stress. And I love that idea of just allowing that, like, that was something I did at that time. And maybe I needed to do, and maybe it's a luxury to be able to do that, like you said, on a lot of levels. And that you're allowed to go through transitions and different phases. And, you know, I think of sexuality or feeling sexy also as an energy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because you can see it in other people too, you know, where it's like it's not about a body type or fitting some kind of mold or an age or any of that, you know?
Mm-hmm. It's the, you know, some of our most iconic sex symbols, and that's the thing too. If you're wanting to feel more sexy, be more open and honest with yourself. Because remember, you don't have to be perfect. You just have to be honest. And so when I think of, you know, people let's say a Marilyn Monroe, just because
Mm.
everyone knows her,
Yeah.
the sexiness came from the vulnerability. So be more vulnerable with yourself, and then you will start to feel more sexy and desirable
Hmm.
because you're allowing yourself to be open. And again, when you're feeling sexy and you are engaging in an intimate act with someone else, or when we are watching erotic films, it's the people who we know for a fact are just letting go and not thinking
Yeah.
about how their body is moving or what their face is doing. And we find pleasure in watching them just embody themselves.
Mm-hmm. Because I think we recognize that like authenticity and
Yeah,
alignment is just
yeah,
being like true, you
yeah.
know?
If I can give everyone one thing, just yes, the sexiness is the embodiment of you living in your truth. And when you are not feeling sexy, you heal yourself through seduction by honoring boundaries with yourself and self consent.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. I also wanted to ask you about, because I know you work with people of all races and genders and ages, but what does it mean to you to, work with the Black community, especially around these topics?
Oh my goodness, thank you. I so healing through seduction, you know, I did my first session with 5 women on Skype, and they were all, white women. And that's who used to come to my burlesque classes. For the most part, there'd be a few Black women. And when I got the assignment during the pandemic, I had a divination from my
Mm-hmm.
priestess. And it's like, yes, your ancestors are, wanting you to perform burlesque in a new way. Now it's going to be the workshops. Now it's going to be keynotes. Now it's going to be, the keynote revelation came just recently.
Mm.
But it's just like, you got to reach new heights. And I said, okay, so I have to devote all of my energy just to healing through seduction. And so I
Mm.
did this like letting go ritual of like the Pearl Noir, who was touring Europe, touring Australia, going to Asia, and understanding that's the equivalent. I'm putting my banana skirt down. At one point, Josephine Baker had to put the banana skirt down, and then she found herself being the only woman to speak at the March on Washington. And so I said, let's
Wow.
honor this. And then I did a ritual. I used some come to me oil, which is usually
Mm-hmm.
used for lovers. But I said, I really want more Black women to come. And now they are the majority of the women in class.
Yeah.
And it means so much to see my reflection and to help myself and other Black women return to our ancestral power that was turned into a Jezebel trope as a way to manipulate and gaslight us into believing, that our sexual power, us walking around topless and dancing to heal for everything, was the savage act, not killing
Mm.
and violating and kidnapping, right? The manipulation. And it's so deep because then it was like, we were going to kidnap you and do these things to you and tell you it's your fault. And then we're going to introduce you to our religion. And in our religion, it even states that we have the right to own you. And now we're going to tell you you're a Jezebel so that you go through life never having access to the medicine in your hips,
Mm.
to the medicine between your thighs, to the medicine of your breast. And I think I think our ancestors are just coming through in such a powerful way and asking us to return to the music, to the dance, to the toplessness, to the freedom, to the
Mm-hmm.
uninhibited spirituality and power.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel very honored and grateful. I'm very aware that I was born to bring the people in. And I'm not, it's not that I'm healing Black women. I'm just reminding them of their own medicine.
I love it so much. I mean, because as healers and helpers, like we can't do it for people, you
No.
know, but we can plant the seeds, we can offer guidance, we can be there to support them, we can hold space, you know, and I love that you're doing that. And
Yeah.
I appreciate you talking about that that idea. That really resonated with me of like sexuality being this very like natural, kind of like innocent, pure thing
Yes.
that has been manipulated,
It really has.
you know?
It really has. And I just wake up so excited because every day I'm looking at a woman or a feminine person wear lingerie,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and in my group classes, you know, everybody, the women come and the femmes come and the non-binary people come, understanding that, but we are going, regardless of your gender, we are honoring being a woman today,
Mm-hmm.
what
Mm-hmm.
that means. And they come into the studio and then they all go to change and they come back and they've got their like boudoir. They look like they're from a Hollywood set. They've got their
Yeah.
dusters on. They've got their full makeup, their corsets. And we're just having the time of our life. And I just cannot explain how amazing it is. This is the person who grew up being told she was not worthy, you know, didn't deserve anything. Now I'm the person that gets to witness people returning to themselves. And I'm just so grateful.
That's amazing. So tell people where they can find you. I feel like you've, you know, I'm like hooked already. So how do you help people? Where can they find you? What should they do?
Well, I would say, of course, I have my website, Black Burlesque Queen, but I always suggest that people go to my Instagram first. That way you can see the other people who come to my class, see
Yep.
who identify with them. You can see me. There are many testimonials there.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, one of the things I love to do is give people, you know, access to one of my recordings or my free ebook first, just because I don't offer a traditional burlesque class, and it certainly is not a traditional healing class.
Yes, I think they should know that by now.
That this is a good fit for you. So I would say, please come over to my Instagram, which is The Pearl Noire, ThePerlenoire.
And we will put that in the show notes too.
Thank you. And I also have monthly Healing Through Seduction Burlesque intensives. The next one is March 25th and then April 15th. And this is a 4-hour intensive where we come in, bring everybody in. The first 30 minutes is just everyone getting settled. And then we go through the boundaries and consent.
Nice.
Okay. And then I let everyone know one more time what's going on. That way, if they'd like to leave, they can. And then we start with one of my Healing Through Seduction rituals to get you sorted. So, for instance, one of the things that I might ask you to do is write a love letter to yourself, but not with a pen and paper. We're going to take our finger, and that is the wand and the pen. And then we're going to write on our body, right? Because our bodies also store memories. And we're going to write our intention and a love letter to ourselves before we start. And then I will teach a dance, but it will not be like a burlesque dance or choreography. I'll teach a burlesque inspired ritual through movement. So we'll do those affirmations through movement. We'll redefine intimacy. We will reconnect. We'll reclaim, right, our narrative and experience a rebirth. And then we'll take a break to have like some lunch, maybe a little champagne. Come back, go through the movements one more time, a nice little sister healing circle, and then bringing everybody back down. And what I like to do during that time is like a sensual Reiki. And then also I open up the windows in the space so that we can then release the energy. So everybody can go home with their own energy. And then have our final grounding exercise and then do a Q&A, pictures, and then we all go back into the world, you know, having a little more sass, you know, as our birth selves.
Because I do think sexual energy is life force energy, you know, and I think that's what you're saying is like, you just walk around with more of that energy, just like go about your normal daily tasks.
Yeah.
So in those workshops, you're in New York, right?
I am in New York City.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
cool.
I feel so honored, like 90% of the people who come fly in.
Amazing. Yeah, you guys do need to check out her Instagram because it is different than typical burlesque. I love some of the slowness of what you do because I think
Thank you.
there's so much hustle culture, and that's something that I'm kind of working to let go right now. And it's just like to embrace the luxury of
It's
slowness.
like, ooh. And I teach the burlesque the way I performed it. I became a burlesque
Mhm.
icon because I was the only one that everyone understood. Oh, she's doing rituals up there. I mean, grown men would cry during my
Oh
performances.
my God, Pearl.
Hmm.
That's wild,
Yeah.
but very cool.
Yeah. So
Um,
that teaches how I performed it.
mhm.
Hmm.
That's so cool. So I mean, I think you guys can have a sense of Pearl's energy by now. So go check her out.
Please.
Thank you so much, especially just for being like my first guest that I'm doing a recording with. This was amazing. Your energy is so good. I love what you're all about.
Thank
And I'm just
you.
happy that we were able to share this with people. So,
Thank you so much. I appreciate you so, so, so much. I can't even. Thank
aw,
you.
thank you. All right. Bye, guys. We'll catch you next week.